Hello everyone and welcome back to the Hammered Corner. Firstly, Happy New Year to each and every one of you who tunes in every week for some numismatic content. I can't believe in a couple of days it will be 1 year since I created the channel, and what a journey I've been on so far. So in today's video, we have a special questions and answers where I answer your questions. Thanks to all the subscribers who left their questions in the community poll. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, firstly, Ash Gamble asks, what would you consider as a minimum grade for someone just starting on the Hammered collection? Thank you, Ash, for your question, and it's a really important question that many people ask and worry about. And it really depends on the individual, their financial situation, or types of coins they'd like to collect. Now, many veteran collectors swear by quality over quantity, and having fewer coins of higher grade is the better way to collect. But if you'd rather a large collection of lesser quality coins, then that is perfectly fine too. I mean, there's no right or wrong answer. Don't get too hung up on the quality versus quantity. Focus on collecting what you can afford and enjoying the hobby for the main reason we all do it, the history behind each and every coin, regardless of condition. You could do what I did. I bought lesser quality coins I could afford or wanted to spend, and then once I could afford a better one, I just upgraded when possible. The worst thing any collector could do is begin to compare their situation and coins to others. It also depends on the coinage you'd like to collect too. Some issues of coinage, like the Telby coinage from Henry II's reign, or York issues from Edward IV or Henry V, are notoriously bad. So collecting such coins would mean collecting lesser quality coins out of necessity rather than personal preference. So to summarise, collect whatever you'd like, in whatever condition you'd like, and in quantities you'd like. It's your experience and your connection with these coins that is the most important thing. The Black Prince asks, do you think you'd do a video on condor tokens? What is your personal favourite coin in your collection? I'd been hoping for a channel like yours that goes into medieval English coinage would pop up, so thank you and love from America. Firstly, thank you very much for your kind words, and it's great to see that many collectors across the pond are getting into English numismatic history too. A couple of questions here. So yes, firstly, I do plan on doing a video on condor tokens. I don't currently own any, and they aren't something I collect, so that's why I haven't made one thus far. 99% of the time I tend to make videos on coins in my collection, but exceptions can be made in times where videos are wanted and aren't in my immediate possession. Secondly, I think that is an extremely hard question to answer. What is my favourite coin? Now this answer changes a lot, and currently my favourite coin is a Henry VII groat that is very special and an important coin in my collecting journey. This coin has been on my wish list for 18 months ever since I started, and thankfully I purchased this coin at the right price, at the right time, and I am thrilled to finally have a portrait issue of Henry VIII's dad, who issued the first English realistic portrait on coins that inspired the coin designs for over 500 years after. But a video on that special milestone is coming very soon. But my favourite coin often changes, and to put it bluntly, I have so many favourites that picking my top coin is impossible. Special thanks for your weekly support, mate. Casper asks, do you use pictures found on the web in your videos? Do I have to ask permission before using them in my own videos, or just list the image credits in the description? Fantastic question, Casper, and massive thanks to you for your weekly supportive comments. Now, I studied a photography degree at university, where you're drilled into the legality of copyright and using other people's photographs as your own. Now, when citing photographs in essays, you must always caption and cite the place you found the photo, or the owner of that photograph. But in my YouTube videos, I'm not trying to pass off any photos as my own. And as I'm not getting paid for any money on YouTube, copyright acts a little differently. If I use copyrighted photos and still got paid for it, YouTube flag each bit of copyright infringement and stop any money being made. You can find non-copyrighted photographs on the web, where they may ask you to cite them as a sign of respect. But other than that, it's up to you, and it really depends on why you're using them and what you're gaining from it afterwards. So be sure to check to see if your photograph is copyrighted and what the rules are around that. Usually it's okay, but for business purposes where you're making money, that's where it gets a bit tricky. I will always keep my videos unmonetized, as I make them to help others, and that's what it's all about. If I can inspire some new numismatists to start collecting, then I've done my job properly. Waspius Maximus asks, where did you get your coin case from? What coin or coins are you looking for next? And what is the magic bucket lister coin you would like? Thanks for your hard work and time, Wasp and Helen. So firstly, massive thanks for your questions and your support. My coin cabinet was made by Peter Nichols, a famous coin cabinet maker in the 1970s. So it is an older version of the coin cabinet that the company still make, even though Peter Nichols doesn't run it anymore. I purchased it from a Facebook sales post for £280 inclusive of postage, which was great considering it weighs 8 kilograms. And new versions go for around £400 to £500. It holds hundreds of coins and it is a perfect way to store your prized possessions. I will leave a link to the website down below where you can look at prices for a new one that are about double the prices that I paid, unfortunately. But second-hand models can be purchased from auction houses, eBay or Facebook sites for great prices. Just make sure that they are of superior woods like mahogany. So secondly, my dream bucket list coin. Now I had to give this one a bit of thought, as I have two bucket list coins. One is more realistic than the other. My first realistic coin I would love to own is a great example of an Oliver Cromwell shilling. Now I had the pleasure of holding a 1658 Cromwell crown last year, and it only made me desire an example even more. A good example may cost me £1,000 to £2,000, so a lot of saving would be needed when I'm older and when I'm more financially secure. So secondly would be my not so realistic goal, and that's trying to obtain a portrait example from the reign of Alfred the Great. Now these Saxon coins are on any numismatist list, and after seeing one sell recently for £15,000 plus fees, may just have to stay a dream for the foreseeable future, unless my winning numbers come in singing this Saturday evening. I have been fascinated with Saxon history, and Alfred the Great would be the centrepiece of any collection. SL Drew asks, you mentioned in one of your videos your aim is to collect a coin of every monarch, so how many of them / which ones do you have? I have the same goal, so would like to see some of your examples. Firstly, thanks for the great question. Yes, it is a fantastic numismatic goal to set yourself, a huge open area that will keep you excited for many, many years, especially when it comes to collecting rarer and more expensive Saxon coins from the earlier periods. I will put a photo on screen now of a list of monarchs that spans the whole of the English history, and it will show the monarchs I do and do not have. And as you can see, I have a long way to go, and that is because I like to collect different examples of the same coin, so that is more of my priority, mainly sticking to Tudor and Stuart examples. Over the year I'll add a couple of coins that will fill gaps, and I will happily take my time with it. So down below I'd love to see how many you will have too, if this is your goal as well. And finally Cormac asks, favourite coin you own, once own, or would love to own? 3 questions in one there. What got you started in this hobby, and what do you dislike about the hobby? Do you think coins will always be on the increase in value wise? What's my favourite era of hammered? Saxon, medieval, Tudor? Just a few I'd like to hear you answer off the top of my head. Look forward to it. Cheers, Luke. Wow, plenty of questions there, Cormac. Thanks for that, mate. There are a few I've already answered, so I'll answer the ones that have had no input so far. My favourite coin I once owned was a fantastic example of a Queen Mary groat that I owned this time last year. It was the best example I had ever seen, and before that, hadn't even owned one. But I needed the money at the time, and I couldn't consider keeping it when it was worth £700. It has been one of those small regrets that I wish I hadn't, but it is what it is, and I'm a strong believer that everything happens for a reason, and because of that, my collection is where it is today. Secondly, how did I get into this hobby? I got started in this hobby in 2020 during the UK lockdown, where I had no hobby or outlook in life that got me excited, especially during those dark and stressful times. I loved history and watched an episode of Pawn Stars, where I saw a very rare Viking penny that sparked my interest in coins. And before this, I didn't even know coins existed that were that old. I did a whole video on this. Links on screen now or in the video description for the full interesting story of how I began collecting. What keeps me interested in this hobby? Well, first I've made some lifelong friends during my time collecting, all of whom I share my biggest passion with. English numismatics is a huge area to learn, and it can take a lifetime to learn just one area. So every day I find myself learning something new about a certain coinage that sparks inspiration to do as much research on that one as possible. Another point is the thrill of the chase. The thrill of chasing a coin you really want or buying it from your own collection is a really infectious feeling. Obtaining coins also becomes more enjoyable when you get others who like to see them. It's at that time that you really begin to see what you have accumulated. When family or friends who know nothing about coins ask you questions, you begin to see all the knowledge you've learned come to light. As I know, to start with, coin collecting can be quite lonely away from social media. All of these things make this hobby the best in the world. What do I dislike about the hobby? Now, I had to spend a little bit of time thinking of this question, but I would say it's the lack of easily accessible content around hammered coins history. There are lots of historical studies and papers written out there about certain coinages and types, but hardly any black and white articles on basic history of English numismatics for beginners, and that is something that I think would be so useful. You type in, for example, history of coins and it comes up with coins for sale and their descriptions. Or you head on over to the Numismatic Society website and they have some of the greatest numismatists writing papers on different areas, of which aren't for beginners and can be very intimidating at first. I think we need basic articles on what life was like back then numismatically. This is the type of information that can easily transfer collectors of coins into numismatists. The most information I found about a ruler's numismatic history online was found during the reign of Henry VII, and that is because he was famous for being very in control of his finances. So yes, this is a big hint for those who could make that happen. Okay, so do I think coins will only increase in value over the time? And yes, I do. I think that the price of coins will be relative to every other price rise in life. History only tells us that prices increase in all areas, from wages to houses, shopping, bills, and minimum wage. So as long as the price of living increases, so will coins. And since lockdown, there have been a surge in the interest of our hobby, which makes the demand for coins higher, especially when more people watch the same auction lots. Prices will go through the roof. I also believe that when we buy and sell coins, the selling price will always be at the bottom line for the buyer if you choose to sell it again. So if I purchased the coin for £20, for example, and sold it for £30, the buyer in the future will look at it and think, okay, I bought this for £30. I don't want to lose any money on it and hopefully make a bit of profit after I post it. So I will charge £45. And the cycle goes on until the market changes and the cap of the coin hits its limit. So a lot of factors could influence this. And finally, what era of history of hammered coins is my favourite to collect? Well, my favourite era is Tudor and Stuart. And when I was at school, this period of history was the sole reason I fell in love with history of England. So when I started learning about numismatics, I found that collecting my favourite period was the best place to start. I connect with the coins of this period because of how real the coins feel, especially because these hold the first realistic portraits of the Tudor family, transporting you back to a time where life was brutal. You're holding coins from the most infamous family in British monarchy. So at this time, I knew nothing about the Civil War or the Stuart line. And once I read a book about the Civil War, and that very interesting period of numismatic history, I haven't been able to stop. Charles I's coins tells the biggest story, where life was filled with betrayal, stress, and ever-changing laws and circumstances, and that is why there is such a big following for such coins. Now, I don't think I would ever be as interested in just collecting coins from one single reign, so my advice would be to collect whatever you like, and don't feel like you ever need to go down a path of collecting a single type of monarch. Make your experience unique to you and enjoy it as much as possible. So I wanted to say a massive thank you to all the amazing questions that you guys asked over on my YouTube community poll over the last few weeks. I hope you enjoyed the answers and some of them have helped in some way. I wanted to wish you all Happy New Year, and here's to another great year of coin collecting. Thank you all for your continued support over the last year, and as always, keep collecting.